Hey, everybody, and welcome to An Action Filmmaking Podcast. This is episode 33, and we're here to talk about a very action packed topic. Today, we're going to be all into the world of stunts, stunt performing, those crazy bastards who are willing to do just about anything to make our movies just a little more realistic. But before we get into that, I'm here with Mikey Messier, my co host, as always. How you doing this week, Mike?
I'm doing pretty good, Tommy. Good to see you, buddy, and good to be here and giving our props and our flowers and our love and our hand hearts or whatever to all the stunt coordinators and stunt workers of the film industry and telling some stunt stories. Should be fun.
Yeah, stunt work is a wild thing. It's one of those thankless tasks of the filmmaking world. These guys don't always get the credit they deserve. So today we're going to be talking about that. But before we do, Mike, what was your feedback like on last week's episode, My Father, Muhammad Ali?
I think it was a lot of good feedback, buddy. People were intrigued. It made a lot of people want to watch the movie, which luckily for everyone, you can do through YouTube, pay or buy the movie. You can do it through a lot of streaming services. The cool thing about these days, Tommy, even 10 years ago, we didn't have these smart TVs where you can literally like search for any movie or TV show you want. And for all our gripes about modern technology and social media, the way of streaming shows and content now, it really is convenient for everybody.
Oh, yeah, the days of going to three or four, sometimes five different stores, two different malls, searching for that movie the day it came out. That shit's over, man. You kind of just click a couple buttons and you can watch just about anything. So, yeah, the big feedback that I got off of My Father Muhammad Ali last week was again just so many people that are shocked, surprised, didn't even know there was a Muhammad Ali Jr. So I think again, just another great chance to build awareness to a great story, and we're excited about all the terrific feedback on that documentary. And like Mike said, if you're interested in watching it, you can punch it in your Google machine right now. My Father Muhammad Ali. Again, that's a movie that I co-wrote and directed with Chad Verdi, and we're really excited about that one. Um, but let's get into it, Mike. Today we're here to talk about some action-packed renegades of the film world, the stunt performer. What I really like, my favorite part about stunts is it's a very all-inclusive part of the movie world. When you think of uh, actors, everybody thinks, and this isn't true, but everybody thinks, actors have to be incredibly handsome or beautiful or a certain height or a certain weight or a certain body type. The great thing about stunt performers is there's kind of a performer for every situation because a lot of times when you're stunt doubling someone, there's all different kinds of people that you might have to match up with. So, you might not realize it, but there are uh, stunt performers of all ages, shapes, sizes. It's a really cool world that you can make a living in. And there's something for everybody because you just never know what actor might need a double, might not be comfortable doing that particular scene. And boom, there you go. You get hired.
Well, Tommy, there's a funny story from the movie Flashdance going back to 1983. Jennifer Beals, at the end of the movie, she has this big dance audition, and it's a pretty famous scene of her, dancing for approval from this board at a school. And there's actually like four different people that did the stunts for that dance scene. And I say people because one of them was a male breakdancer because
Wow.
there one move of all the crazy dance moves she was doing that was like, because at the time breakdancing was the new big thing. So they brought in this kid who had a mustache and everything to do the one scene for the flash dance scene. And if you put the whole thing in slow motion, you can see him, you can see the three
Wow.
ladies. It's pretty nuts. So yeah,
She's
the stunt.
dancing like she's never danced before.
Right. She's a maniac on the floor. So just there's so many interesting stories from the stunt world. But we'll tell our own stories today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a little general chat, general shout, general salute of appreciation to all stunt performers because they do just some really dangerous shit to make our entertainment a whole lot better. And really, they're so valuable because they protect the assets of the film, the goods. They protect the merchandise, which is your stars, your star actors. The let's say on day 2, your lead actor breaks his arm doing a stunt, you're in trouble. Your whole production's in jeopardy now. So that's why we have these great stunt performers that can come in, shoulder the load. Don't worry about the mule, just load the wagon. You can put me in there, and if I get banged up, we'll find another stunt performer to come on in and take my place. And they know that's how it goes. Checking in here.
I think
Arinda,
that's
what's up,
a new
man?
a
New
new
new viewer?
person.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome to the show. Great to have you. A big old and action salute to you. So yeah, we're talking stunts today. I've never done a lot of crazy stunts. I really haven't. I've done a few, and we're going to talk about that. But for me, it's always been one of those things where you got enough to worry about. Anytime I've been acting in a movie, you got enough to worry about just getting your lines right, hitting your marks, creating this character, having the stress of like, oh shit, I have to do something that could potentially harm me. Having that extra stress cloud over my head, I'll 9 out of 10 times, or I should even say 98 out of 100 times, I'll just go ahead and be like, "No, we can have the stunt performer do this one." So, but I have done a few stunts, and really the big thing is just you have to listen. The beats are so specific that if something goes wrong, it's usually because you're not in the right place or somebody did something to kind of go off the script. So it's all about sticking to the script. A lot of people have heard it on the show before. A couple of guys that I'm going to mention a lot on this one that I've worked closely with doing stunts, and that's Nick Principe and that's David Gear. Those are a couple of guys that are willing to do just about anything to kind of put themselves in harm's way. And I think that there is, we'll go into the psyche of the stunt performer later, but there's definitely a daredevil aspect to these people. There's an aspect of that, evil Knievel in them, where they know that this is something that the majority of people would not be willing to do. And I think that they do get a little bit of a thrill out of being the one who's able to step up to the plate, get in there and say, everybody, step aside.
Yeah,
I can handle this.
yeah,
And it is exciting, man, because, if you've been on a movie set when they do stunts, and provided that it's not a danger to the shot itself, it's usually the kind of shot, a lot of times making movies is like watching grass grow. It can be a very boring process when you're just watching, if you don't have a job, if you're just viewing the process from the sidelines. But if you're watching stunts go down, could be pretty goddamn exciting because it's like, when else do you get to watch a person catch on fire and run around while they're literally burning, potentially alive? When else
right.
do you get to see somebody jump off of a fucking roof? These are things that we don't get to see every day. So it's exciting. Um, that said, Mike, a lot of fun adventures with Nick Principe, a lot of fun adventures with David Gear. We're going to be talking about all that. Just want to say thank you, sir. Really enjoy watching your videos. Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you
Nice.
so much for taking the time to watch them. I'll keep them cranking out. Um, so yeah, let's kick it off. Let's get right into it. Stunt performers are basically like a little bit of a mafia in a
Right.
sense. There's regional sort of territories. Like for example, I make a lot of movies in Rhode Island, in the New England area, and there's really only a couple guys and a couple stunt teams that do it. So if you want to get involved in stunts, a little word to the wise would be find out who that key, stunt mafia boss is in your local area, because there's usually just that one go-to, and kind of reach out to them and see if there's a way to intern or get involved, because it's a very small world, the stunt performing world. There's not a ton of people who do this, and I say it all the time to people that want to get involved in movies. It is kind of a fast track to get on the inside if you want to do stunts, if you're willing to do it, if you got the moxie, if you got the chutzpah to get your ass in there and put your body on the line. There's a lot of potential openings for that.
Hey, Tommy, would you agree that, especially for athletic females, or females that want to get into the film industry, that there's probably a lot of opportunities for female stunt women just because there's a lack of competition? I'm just kind of guessing on that, but what do you think of that?
Certainly. I mean, listen, not to generalize, but here's the big thing. Usually women are smaller than men, right? So what ends up happening, and I've seen this happen an awful lot, a lot of women can make a good living doubling children, kid actors. Like, let's say you're doing a movie like, I don't know, Spy Kids or something. Some kid has to do some crazy thing where they got to jump over a banister or whatever. If you have a petite, 5 foot tall woman, she can certainly get in there and, with the right lens from the right angle, double a kid if need be. So yeah, like I said, that's kind of back to my little opening speech there. It's like there's a spot for everybody. I did a movie, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I did a movie recently called The Collective, and we're going to talk about that in great detail because that was my most in-depth experience with a true stunt team. And there are guys that are in their 60s on that stunt team, gray-haired, white beards, and yeah, this is what they do. And you know what? We had a great scene at the end of the film where we needed a bunch of these distinguished gentlemen to take some bumps, if you will, take a few falls to the ground. And it was great to have these sturdy 60-something dudes who've been doing this for 25, 30 years. And like, yeah, what do you need me to do? Go through that table? No big deal.
Right.
So there's really like, it's a very all-inclusive world, the stunt world, and that's what I like about it. But let's start at the top. Let's start with what's the definition of a stunt? It's such a vast topic. When you think stunts, Mike, what do you think? What kind of things do you think of?
Oh boy. I mean, I think of car crashes, chase scenes, either on foot or in cars. I mean, I think about movies that have airplane crashes. I just saw a movie called Plane that had some really powerful scenes of a plane going down, and then following that, a bunch of action scenes with gunfire and stuff. I think of They Live, Roddy Piper, and I'm forgetting the actor's name that was opposed to him, but that famous fight scene that's like 12 minutes long in They Live, um, it's just tremendous. And I don't think Roddy or the other actor used stuntmen. I think they were the stuntmen. I think of some of my own experiences, just a few of them, but I think of that movie. Was it Hollywood Ending with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio about 4 or 5 years ago? And besides the whole Charlie Manson aspect of that film, I think what was really interesting was the relationship between the movie star played by DiCaprio and his loyal stuntman played by Pitt. And I thought those guys,
Right. Once
maybe
upon
that's
a time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Thank you. That although it's a fictional story and a fictional relationship, I kind of want to think at least that that's like how a real stuntman and a real leading actor might get along.
Now, you just mentioned a lot of the obvious, the big ones, the car crashes, the falls, the bumps, the jumps out of buildings, the explosions. Obviously, anytime you have someone handling a firearm, that's a stunt. But there are a lot of things that I think first-time filmmakers and first-time producers, they don't consider ahead of time, and they might in fact be a stunt. Really, the true definition, and hey, this is my definition, so this is coming from me. Please don't use this in the court of law. I don't think it would hold up. But my definition of a stunt, I actually wrote it out here when I was doing the show notes.
Okay.
Anytime an actor is preparing a physical activity beyond simple everyday movements, that's a fucking stunt. So even if it's as something as simple as an actor is walking down a hallway and trips and tumbles forward. That's a stunt. An actor, is horsing around and one kid falls down. That's a stunt. Like there are so many little things that people don't realize when you're reading the script, and then you get there on the day and you say, "Shit, this is kind of dangerous." Like, and listen, it might be one of those things where, yeah, of course, the main actor, the principal actor can do it. They don't need a stunt performer, but you better have a stunt coordinator there on the day, and you better have that built into your budget. Otherwise, God forbid somebody gets hurt that day, and then they look back and they say, "Hey, where was your stunt coordinator? This you get a kid doing a trip fall here, and he's just going to do it on his own, and there was no stunt coordinator that day." you're opening yourself up for a major, major lawsuit by not having someone there whose job was to just handle the stunts. So, word to the wise, when you're going through and making a movie, really be methodical about what you decide a stunt is or isn't. Because I've been in those situations before where, oh, it's just one punch. The actor just gets punched. You don't need a stunt coordinator for that. We'll just, oh, the DP's he knows where to put the camera to sell it. Yeah, and then you know what happens, and I've seen this happen on a movie. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. They didn't have a stunt coordinator there that day, and you got this one actor that's just like getting this close to the actor's face with these fake punches, and guess what? Wouldn't you know it? Bam! One of them lands and opens the lead actor's nose up. He's bleeding everywhere. Thankfully, the nose didn't break, kind of just popped him a little bit. It's just one of those things where, like, oh, it was just three simple punches. We don't need a stunt coordinator. Yeah, well, now your lead actor's nose is swollen and you got to take 3 days off to let that swelling come down. All because you wanted to save a couple grand by not having a coordinator there that day. So those are things that can happen when you're not kind of extra careful.
Well, Tommy, in the news, and it's not a big elephant in the room because we all have heard about this case, the Rust case, and before that, the Midnight Rider, train tragedy several years ago. People really do need to take accountability, and if there's anything that people watching our podcast here can learn uh, from these horrible tragedies, is if you are a producer or a director, you have to think of your cast and crew almost pretty much like your children. Would you put your kid or your daughter, your son or your daughter into a situation that wasn't safe? If the answer is no, then don't expect to put an actor or a crew member into that unsafe position.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this business, there are too many kind of rogue renegade folks that are like, just get the shot. That's all that matters. We got to get this shot. And it's like, you know what? You got to learn to like live to shoot another day and
Right.
kind of just like it's not that serious. We're making films, it's art, and that is a serious thing that many are very passionate about. But this isn't the fucking operating table. Nobody's life's on the line. We're not in combat. You can always figure out another way to do it another time and not put people in harm's way. And that goes for obviously, you're putting the crew in harm's way too. I've seen crew members potentially get hurt because the stunt wasn't quite engineered the right way. And oh shit, well, we're gonna talk about that. There's a story I would tell where I almost accidentally took out a couple of crew members because the stunt wasn't properly put together right. Let's go through here. We got Sully's Cafe. Glad
Hey,
glad
Sully.
I glad I get to catch you guys live again this time. Sully, thank you for watching, brother. We really appreciate that. We're glad to have you here with us live. One of the stunt one of the stunt masters was Jackie Chan. His actions are way too crazy. Oh man,
Oh,
I love, love, love watching the old school Jackie Chan movies. The things that guy was willing to put his body through. And hey, there's an example of earlier on the show. I said most stunt people don't get the credit, uh, but there are a handful of guys that were so good at performing stunts that it actually became a career. Like they went from being the stunt performer to the star, and Jackie Chan's one of them. So shout out to Jackie Chan here on our tribute to stunts. All right, so we've talked about the definition of stunts. We know there's the tools of the trade. You can kind of tell if a stunt person's worth the shit right away just by how they show up on set. A great stunt coordinator should have a kit, just like any other, like a DP would have a kit, or like a production designer would have a kit, a truck full of all their stuff. A stunt coordinator has a truck full of stuff, and his equipment, his tools of the trade are massive crash pads that you can safely land on, elbow pads, knee pads, thigh pads, ass pads, gator backs, which are basically, when you see like the motocross racers, it's almost like a chest plate and a back plate. They got everything. And, when you're watching your stunt coordinator arrive to set, if they don't have these things, you might want to be a little mindful of like, okay, this person's not quite fully prepared. Because although those crash pads and everything, sometimes you don't even need them. Again, it gets back to like the comfort of the actor and the ability to be like, "Hey, would you like us to put down a pad? Hey, would you like us to do this? If you want, I got elbow pads." And most actors, a lot of times, there's always this little tough guy element to, for some reason, we all got that in us, or a lot of us do. And a lot of the actors will even say, like, "No, I don't need it. No, I'm good." And it's really cool to see the stunt coordinator just be like, "No, you really should wear this. I insist. Just put this on. It's you're gonna be doing this 6, 7 times in a row." Um, so I like to see that in a stunt coordinator, the little extra push. A, having all the equipment and having the right shit, and B, the extra the extra push to, "No, don't be a tough guy. Put the fucking pad on. Save your tailbone."
Yeah, Tommy, why do you? I mean, I'm going to speculate, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's a thing where some actors feel like they'll look better on camera, or their scene will look better on camera, or less likely to be cut from the final version of the film or TV show if they don't have the extra padding on. They think somehow that people like the cinematographer and the director don't know what they're doing, that they can, make it look like they're not wearing all that protective gear. That's my guess as to why some of that pride might come in. Do you think I'm right or wrong on that?
I definitely think that's got something to do with it. I mean, I think it's one of those things that sometimes when you're wearing pads, because I've worn pads a few times for various stunts, when you're wearing them, they feel a lot more clumsy and bulky than they really look.
Right.
Um, but I don't think actors often realize, even if it does look a little bulky just for a second, actors don't always realize like how many cuts are going to go into the sequence. And yeah, this may look bulky if we're looking at it and just staring right at it here, or even if I took a photograph of it on my phone and we looked at it, yeah, it might look a little bulky. But when you're seeing it in motion, like during a fight or during a stunt or during a flip or during a fall, the human eye can't possibly discern the difference between, "Oh, is he wearing a gator back in this shot?" No, you'll never see it because it's gonna happen so fast. So I
Right.
think it's one of those things where, like, again, like, it's gonna sound like a cheesy term, but, like, that's the movie magic, you hear this all the time, and, like,
Sure.
I'll make 100 movies, and I'm still gonna be fascinated by the movie magic. The fact that, like, it's so cool that, like, with the naked eye, this guy looks like he's walking around with a catcher's chest pad on. It looks ridiculous, but then when you see it in sequence, you'd have no idea that it's on, and that's part of the fun. So I think, again, and I think also it's a little bit of pride. I think people probably feel as though, you know, I remember, playing sports. I played football as a kid, and I remember some kids wouldn't want to wear their rib pads, and I'd be like, "What? Why the fuck wouldn't you want to wear your rib? Like that's exactly where you're going to get tackled." But they felt like they could run a little faster without them. They felt like they were a little more agile without them. So to them, it was worth taking a shot to the ribs to be a little more agile. So I think it's the same thing with actors. Like, yeah, they're willing to, hey, you know what? This might hurt 5 or 6 times, but it'll live on forever in film, and I'll know that I took the shot. So who knows?
And that's always great to think that way until you get hurt, and then you start complaining that people didn't protect you. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you gotta have that stunt coordinator that insists upon it. All right, so one more we're gonna get into one more kind of word to the wise before we get into our personal stories as Anna. What's up, Anna?
Hi, Anna.
Anna checks on in. Good to see you. We're having a fun discussion about stunts. And I love stunts, man. They're fun. They take the movie to the next level. So here's one thing. If you're an actor or if you're a stunt performer and somebody asks you to do something that you're not fully comfortable with, don't ever be afraid to say no. Um, it's easy to get caught up in the hoopla, in the bravado, and the macho-ness of being on set and having everybody just kind of, "Oh, you can do it. Ah, that won't be a big deal. No, no problem. Yeah, you got this. You got this." That's my favorite line. "You got this." It's like,
Yeah.
"Are you gonna get my medical bills, motherfucker?" So, people can hype you up with the "you got this,"
Right.
but in reality, if somebody asks you to do something on a movie set that you're not comfortable with, just say no, because here's the thing, and I know what you're thinking. A lot of actors, especially younger actors, might feel, "Ooh, I won't be looked upon as valuable of an asset if I'm not willing to do this. That production might have to hire a stunt performer to come in and replace me for this day or whatever." That's not your problem, man. Your problem is leaving the movie set in the same condition that you arrived to the movie set in, as far as having all your bones intact. Um, so just
Yeah.
don't do anything crazy, you know. And I've got a little bit of a story about that. Mike, were you going to go ahead and say something? And now,
Well, just to your point,
oh,
Tom.
my first story.
To your point, from my experience, Tommy, I guess myself and many others, you feel like the whole weight of the production is on your shoulders, even as a supporting or even an extra actor. And if you don't comply with every request or demand, they're going to hate you, meaning the people making the film or the casting people that got you the gig. You'll never work in this town again, and I think a lot of this stuff in the minds of actors or people new to the film world, it's sad because you're allowing yourself to be possibly taken advantage of and be vulnerable to the mistakes of others. And remember, your ultimate obligation is to your own health and safety. And if you feel like the production is not honoring your safety and health or respecting your boundaries with the physicality, it's not worth the $200 or the $500 or the $1,000, whatever you're going to get paid for that day. It's not worth your life or your health. And there are some horror stories that we don't have to go into that we both know about of people getting injured on set. And yes, it's usually not the person who got hurt's fault, but in a lot of those situations, I hate to say it, but if that person had kind of spoken up and said, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing this, even if they had to walk away from the set, they wouldn't end up with that lifelong injury.
Yeah, basically, Mike, I think we can sum it up like this. We all get that little feeling called, I call it nervous belly. When you get that little nervous belly feeling and something just feels off, listen to that shit. That's your body and your mind and your soul telling you, back the fuck out of this thing because it's not healthy for you. So don't be afraid to give in to your nervous belly to protect your ass. Because hey, this might be your big break, and oh, I'm on set 10 days on this shoot, and then you get hurt day 2, and then you get replaced or some shit. I had a funny story. It was my first time doing live theater, Mike. I'm not much of a theater actor. I'm one of those guys that kind of got into it a little bit later in the game as far as acting goes. I didn't get into acting until college, really. I was in my late teens. So I missed the whole high school theater bit, and I didn't get into that. But then I was doing a play early in my career. I'm probably 21 years old, and in the scene, we have to wear these long military coats. I'm a soldier. I got this long military coat. I have a big old musket, which is, if anyone's ever held a musket before, it's a big ass clunky rifle. Okay. I've got a weird hat. I'm wearing fucking leather gloves. And I'm asked to basically climb the set up a ladder, which was built by the production designer, and then jump from the top of that, basically like landing, to another platform that hung over above the stage, which was probably 15 to 20 feet above the stage. And then looking down, like from the stage to the audience, is probably like 30 feet up. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole crazy distance, but when you're fucking climbing with a long coat and a rifle that you got to strap around your back and leather gloves that you're not used to, I did it one time and I didn't even jump to the platform. I just climbed to the top. And I remember looking down and seeing like the rest of the cast looking like fucking ants to me from the top of the stage. And I didn't even make the jump to the platform. I didn't even go for it. I climbed right down and I said, I'm not doing it. Those
Good.
are my exact line. I said, I'm not doing it. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable up there. I got all this shit on me. I'm gonna and they were like, oh, well, do you think maybe if we lost the rifle, you could do it? And I go, nope. I go, I'm gonna climb to the top of the ladder, hook my arm to it for dear life, look out, and I'm gonna do the scene from the top of the ladder if that's okay with you. And I'll never forget. I don't want to name names because it'll give away the production, and I don't want anyone to think I was putting a life or death situation because it wasn't that serious. Other guys were willing to do it. I didn't feel comfortable.
Right.
So I'll never forget one of the old timers, one of the older kind of veteran actors looked at me and he just said, "Good for you." You know, and I kind of earned that guy's respect for like, no, like, cause like this was my honest thought. If I fall from the top of the fucking stage in the opening act of the play, it's gonna ruin the whole fucking play. The whole
Right.
fucking play is suddenly like, I broke my ankle. Okay, I'm not gonna die from a drop like this, but you definitely busted an ankle or you're breaking a wrist. It was definitely a phase one injury kind of thing. It was a trip to the hospital if you fell, and it
Well,
would
then
have the show. So I said no, Mikey.
good, good. No, that's great, and I agree with that old timer. Like, good for you because that kind of. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but I will. It reminds me of that Owen Hart tragedy from 1999 in the world of pro wrestling. Owen apparently had some reservations about doing that horrible stunt, and he did not express himself for fear of losing his job. And we all know the unfortunate result. He lost his life, and I'm not obviously not blaming him, but I'm just saying that queasy feeling in his stomach. I and everyone else wish he would have just walked out of the arena. And your story, although not life or death, who knows, Tommy? You could have broken your wrist, which might have still affected you to this day. Or this as an athletic guy. Once you have a sprain or a broken foot or something like that, it's never quite the same, right?
Oh yeah, listen, like you said, buddy, and this was theater, so I think I was making like $50 a show. For like the $50 a show, it wasn't worth the potential of busting my ass. And that kind of segues into all right. So my first real movie stunt encounter, and I don't mean to be on a downer because this is another situation where I said no. So making a movie called Lucy's, actor Michael Madsen basically needs to throw my character through a plate glass window, like a massive, massive head to toe kind of size window. And the idea is that he gets mad at it's actually one of his own men that he turns to, gets mad at because they fucked up and he throws them through the window. And I was gonna do it. I was pumped, man. I'm doing a stunt with Michael Madsen, who to me at the time especially was a fucking legend. I mean, I watched Hateful Eight last night. To me, Michael Madsen's still a legend. So it's like, yeah, I wanted to do this stunt with Michael Madsen. But it's a rite of passage. I got thrown through a window by Michael Madsen. Hell yeah. And then I remember doing this one where they had a stunt performer. And this was a bigger production, so it was one of those things where they had the stunt performer just in case, but I did have the option to do it. And as of the morning, I told the director, I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna go through the window." Okay, great. Well, we got the stunt performer here, and he was cool. He was basically like, "If you change your mind, he's here." And then I remember sitting down like on a bench as they're putting the glass, and again, here's what people don't realize it's not always candy glass on a stunt like that. It's a special type of glass, but it's fucking glass. Because candy glass, when it's that size, you can tell there's something awry. Like it looks a little hazy when you look through it. It's not like a real window. So you actually what they do is they just get the very thinnest pane of real glass and you just fucking go through it. Uh and I think they were gonna put a back pad on me and I was gonna just take it through the back. They were like, okay, the stunt coordinator's like, roll your head forward and your back out, tuck your chin, and just go through it with your back. I'm like, okay. And then I remember sitting there, and Jamie Alexander, name drop, shout out to Jamie Alexander, comes up to me. You might know Jamie from she was in the movie Thor. She had a hit TV show as well. Anyway, really talented actor. She comes up to me and she says, "Are you going through that window?" And we hadn't really spoken other than a couple words the whole shoot. And she's the star of this production. So I'm like number 52 on the call sheet. She's like number 2 on the call sheet. So I'm like shocked she's even talking to me. And she's like, "Are you going to go through that window?" I go, "Yeah. Why?" And maybe I'm a young guy, Trying to be a little tough. Yeah, no problem. What? And she goes, I wouldn't do that. I go, what? What do you mean? She goes, look, that's real glass. She goes, she said something along the lines of, she's like, you've got a good looking face. And I was like, what? She goes, you got a good looking face. You should keep it that way. If one little shard of that glass, when it breaks, scrapes across your face and cuts it, you're going to be scarred for life over that one shot. And it was crazy, man. It was like the scene in Jaws when, like, the fucking background shifts. It's like a
Yeah.
and I was like, "Whoa." I was like, I didn't realize, like, this could cut my face and scar me for life." It's like, "Well, yeah, you're going through a glass window." And that was it, man. I kinda just got right up and I I went to the director and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Really appreciate you giving me the chance to do this one, but I'm gonna bow out and, have the stuntman do this one." And you know what's funny, brother? I remember watching it, and you're not gonna believe this because Michael Madsen's a big dude. He's like 6'3", sturdy fella. Took like 4 or 5 takes to push this stuntman through the window.
Mm.
Every time he threw him up against the window, he kept just going, "Boom," and, like, it'd rattle his brains, and the window wouldn't break. And then finally, like, they're like, "Okay, really toss him this time."
Right.
Finally, like, what really did it was Madsen had to, like, chuck this guy through the window, and he had to really smash it, and then I remember, like, a team of, like, 3 or 4 people running up to the guy as he's laying down, and they had to, like, individually carefully pick all these tiny
Oh,
parts of the glass off all over his face and all over it, and I remember just saying to myself, I'm, like, smoking a joint. I'm wrapped now, smoking a joint, probably done on the street. I'm like, "Oh, I'm really glad I didn't do that. That would have been really, really dangerous."
I think
So,
you gotta cast Jamie Alexander in a movie as a thank you for this, buddy. Jeez, she really
yeah,
looked out
she
for you.
did. She saved my face, she saved my back from getting smashed 4 or 5 times. So, yeah, it was a wild story, man.
I
Um,
if I could, buddy, it's just that story. You know, here's the thing, man. Maybe that kind of goes into my first story of stunt world. The
yeah, let's
stunt
hear
guy,
it, Mike.
well, the stunt guys are there. They're getting paid whether they're doing the stunt or not. I mean, you know better than I if they're actually getting a bump if they actually take a stunt during the day. But if a movie or a film or a TV show or whatever has a stunt person there, let them do their job. You know, if you're not the stunt person, let someone do their job. You know, this is my anecdote. This is going back to 2005. I had a role as Eugene, playing the son of a character named Cass, who was played by the legendary Sybil Shepherd from Moonlighting and Taxi Driver. And the director of this film was Mario Van Peebles, and he was directing Wesley Snipes as the lead, and that was kind of a New Jack City reunion. So, luckily for me and my character, Tommy, my character, which is not a huge part of the movie, but I was like in the biggest part of the movie, like I'm in the climax, I'm in the fight scene at the very end, and I'm supposed to be fighting Wesley
Well, hang on
Snipes.
now, pal. Don't sell
Sure.
yourself short. You had a really cool part in that movie, and I
I appreciate.
appreciate you for being modest, but that was a great role. Continue.
Yeah, well, it got me into SAG. It was a Taft-Hartley deal that got me into the Screen Actors Guild. So I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying I wasn't, it was a Wesley
I
Snipes movie.
appreciate you for being
Sure.
modest, but go ahead.
Okay. So we get to the scene, and I really felt like these people were taking care of me. This was like, I think, a $15.5 million budget movie, which is still low budget by Hollywood standards, even at the time. But the stunt coordinators were really working with me to work out this scene. Mario Van Peebles invited me to come rehearse the scene at his. He was renting an apartment in downtown Providence for the shoot. So I kind of got the idea, like, if he invites you to come rehearse, basically it's their way of asking you to do something for free because you're not going to get paid for this rehearsal. But it was a nice thing, so I did. I went over there and rehearsed, and when we finally get to shoot this fight scene, Wesley Snipes, actually took some issue with the script. Like, suddenly we were at the end of this movie, and Snipes has got issues with the script. So we actually took a pause. We took a break. Everyone was very anxious. What's going to happen? We ended up that day, or I should say that night, filming the end of the fight scene. which didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, how are we filming the end of the fight scene? How do we get to this point? Well, they hadn't figured that out yet. So then the next week, I'm filming the scene with Sybil Shepherd, which is not the fight scene. And then about 2 weeks after that, we go back to the original studio to fight the beginning of the fight scene. Because in that time, Mario had to rewrite the whole scene to basically accommodate Wesley Snipes and his concerns about the script. So it ended up, instead of me fighting Snipes for the most part, I'm fighting Mario. And when we finally filmed this thing, they said, "Oh yeah, Mike, we got a stunt guy for you if you want to use him." I said, "Sure. Where is he?" I look, the guy's about 5'8" and about 160 pounds, and I'm the size that I am now. So I'm like, I think I'll do my own stunts. You know,
So
like,
you're like 6'2", 260.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the guy's
and he's
about
5'8".
5'8", 100 and then, oh yeah, here's your stunt man. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll do my own stunts. So my stunts consisted of taking an axe and cutting my way through the backdrop. And they, the team basically told me, yeah, we've got two of these, so you've got two takes basically. And I got it on the first take, which I was happy about. And then later in the fight scene, Mario is a big UFC fan, Ultimate Fighting Championship. So he basically had me like in a triangle choke. And the idea is my character is so strong, I lift up Mario while in the triangle choke and give him a power bomb. So there was really no way of faking that, So I kind of stepped up as an actor, even though I'm the least known actor on the set. And I basically told Mario and everyone, like, hey, start filming first and then position Mario in the air with me and have a couple of guys standing by to swoop in and help me drop Mario. And that's what we did. So, I mean, for a total of 1 or 2 seconds, I'm literally holding this 200-pound Mario Van Peebles, the director and producer of this film, over my head. And luckily we got the take and it all worked out fine. And Snipes does have his moment in the fight scene. He comes in at the end and hits me in the back of the head with a saw handle, and it all worked out. But that 3-week process to get a 5-minute fight scene, and there, as an actor, I had no control over this situation, Tommy. I just had to go with the flow and keep my mouth shut and do what they told me. And luckily for me and everybody else, it worked out pretty well.
Well, that sounds like a lot of confusion. I've never been in a situation where they decide to, rewrite and you gotta stop and come back to it later. That definitely provides a whole set of bullshit to deal with, even just down to continuity and making sure everybody looks exactly the same 2 weeks later and, crazy stuff. But, maybe your years of those 8 professional wrestling matches that you had clearly came in handy when power bombing the director of the film.
Yeah.
Nice. Um, so, we'll talk about a little bit, I don't wanna just talk about negative stories today, although, a couple of these stories are on the negative side. I'm gonna go quick with them and kinda just rapid fire. I did a movie called Infected, which was a zombie movie, and if you go back into the archives, you can watch our full episode when we did a deep dive on the movie Infected, which stars Michael Madsen. And, that was an issue where I almost killed 2 people, I'll come out and say it now, and it's no joking matter. But I would have seriously injured and maybe killed the sound person and the boom mic operator because I was doing again, doesn't sound like a stunt, right? But it's a car stunt technically. I got to run out of a house. I got to hop in the front seat of the car and I got to pull directly backwards in reverse and then peel out. That's actually a stunt, believe it or not. So, again, it's making an actor do something that's not a regular everyday body movement. We're not used to running full speed, jumping into the front of a car like zombies are after us and peeling out. I don't know about you, but I don't go to the market that way when I'm leaving my house.
Right.
So the stunt coordinator basically told me the wheel will be straight. The wheels will be straight. Don't turn the wheel. Just go straight back, then turn it and pull forward. Okay. Now, naturally, I run. I'm getting in the car. I have like background actor zombies chasing me. I got a lot of shit to think about. And I just naturally when I got in, I must have turned the wheel just a little bit, maybe as I'm putting it in reverse, whatever. I wasn't going straight back, like he said. And I turn it, and I must have just before I gunned it, I heard, I probably got like 2, 3 feet, and I heard, stop, 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 stop. And I slam on the brakes, and the call cut. Stunt coordinator runs up to me and reams me a new one, flips the fuck out at me, screaming at the top of his lungs. Do you know what you almost did? You almost ran over the sound people. They were right behind you. Blah. Just screaming at me. And I took it and I ate it and it was fine. Uh, and the reality is, shame on this guy. I was 20 something years old when this happened and I ate it, took it on the chin. But now, as a grown man, I would have looked at that guy and said, "Are you fucking crazy? What were you doing even putting any fucking crew behind the moving vehicle? Why was there even an outside chance that I could turn the wheel and run someone over? Like, that's on you, motherfucker. Clear the fucking rear of the moving vehicle." And again, it probably would have become a fist fight at this point in my
Right.
life. But back then, I just kind of took it. And I remember, hey, shout out to Michael Madsen. He put his arm around me and he walked me to the side and he said, "Hey, listen, I know that got a little hairy there, but don't worry about it, kid. One time I ran over $175,000 camera. It was brand new and it fell right off the camera and I backed out. I didn't call it, they called cut, and I fucking ran the thing right over. Don't worry about it. Shit happens." And it was kind of nice. And it was like, hey, you know what? Nice of Michael Madsen to take me aside and say, these things happen when you're dealing with stunts. And in my opinion, a shitty stunt coordinator who put people in harm's way when they didn't need to be in harm's way.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so like him yelling at you was him projecting his own anger towards his own inadequacies and so forth, and hopefully other people saw that as well.
well,
It's
and
all answer.
he was trying to let everyone know, hey, I told this kid to direct straight back, drive straight back. Stephen E checks in. Good to see you, brother.
You, Steven?
Yeah, things almost got crazy. Things can get intense on movie sets, man. You'd be shocked. Like, I'm not proud of this, but like I've probably seen it come this close to a legit fight several times on a movie set because tempers flare, man. People say crazy shit, and there's a lot on the line. All right, keeping it moving. On the movie Self Storage, I did a really fun stunt that's really simple that I want to tell everyone about. I get electrocuted in the movie, quote
Ouch.
unquote, and there's this great wide shot where my character goes up to this key card entry thing, and instead of entering access to the key, instead of gaining access by entering the key card, he gets electrocuted and fired backwards. And you see like my whole body go in the air and like get literally like almost like a bolt of lightning fired across my chest, and then I fall out of frame. And I remember wondering how I was going to do this. And this is Nick Principe. He came to me, and this was just him knowing more about filmmaking at the time. This was my first movie. And what we did was we literally got a tube that you'd go in the swimming pool with, like for tubing. It was a blue tube, and we got a blue rope, and we tied the rope through the tube, put the tube around my waist, and then John Del Ponte, who's a big fella, and Nick, who's an even bigger fella, a couple of big dudes, and I want to say my friend Anthony Figueroa also was part of this yanking team, who's also a big guy.
Yeah.
We got like over you know, close to 900 pounds worth of guy pulling you. And there I was, and I just got yanked back, and I flew like the strength of these three massive men just 1, 2, 3, yank. It shot me across the frame basically, and then later, and I landed on a big bunch of pads out of frame. And then I remember in post production, we just simply went in and masked out those frames that had the blue tube around my waist, and then the blue rope was easily erased in post production. So yeah, it was a pool noodle. That's the word I'm looking for. Steven figured it out. The pool noodle.
Thanks, Stephen E.
You never know the obscure usages of a pool noodle on a movie set. Miss Ash also checks in.
Ms. Ash.
Hello, Miss Ash, always there for us pretty much every week here as our and action friends all check in. I'm talking about stunts today and all the craziness that happens. Um, so this one's kind of fun. Again, there's a lot of trial and error in stunts. Nick Principe, Army of the Damned. Nick was challenged, daring enough to jump off of the roof of my house. And when I explained to you how we did it, it was really funny. And it's so funny, man. Like I feel like I feel like times have changed so much. Like our phones today, we take so many more pictures and video, and I wish I had more footage of this when Nick Principe jumped off of my roof. I really wish I had more footage and photos, but we basically just built a giant cube of cardboard boxes, like the kind of box like moving boxes. Probably, Nick would know the actual formula, but I want to say it was like 20 by 20 cube boxes. It was probably like just picture like a massive, it looked like a big case of soda,
Right.
but like a giant, like the size of a house. And I remember Nick climbing up on the roof, getting in position, and he had his gator back on, and that was about it for pads. And I'm like thinking in my head, like, okay, so he's gonna hit the first row of boxes, and the idea is you just hit the first row, the second row, the third row, the fourth row, and there's 10 rows, so plenty of rows to cushion the blow as you fall down. Well, unfortunately, we did two things wrong on that one. Number one, I had the cameras positioned and Nick checked the frames, but somehow there was confusion in the excitement of the stunt. We moved the camera and we just didn't get the quite ideal angle that we needed to really sell the fact that he's fallen off of a roof. So it didn't even look as cool as it should have.
Right.
But the problem is Nick kind of jumped too far. He misjudged the first set of boxes. And rather than going like straight boom through all the boxes like you're supposed to, he kind of skimmed the top box and went off the back. And he caught some of the boxes, but then landed on the ground. And it's funny, I'm laughing because he didn't die.
Right.
But he basically jumped off of the fucking roof and landed on the ground. And, we're talking about a 20-foot drop.
Yeah.
And, it goes to show you just even hitting those boxes a little bit was enough to make it go from a potentially deadly drop to, he just got I remember we're running up to him. He just got the wind knocked out of him. I was
Right.
like, Nick, are you okay? He's like, yes. Like, all right. Yeah, he couldn't really talk. It was pretty funny. I have to stop this show right now to make give a very special shout out to Anthony Wang. How are you, brother? He is probably the best stunt coordinator that I've worked
I
with.
haven't seen Anthony in a while. I remember Anthony. He's a good guy.
Anthony's a terrific dude. He says 900 pounds of man, a small baby. Yeah, basically, that is a small baby elephant. It's like the offensive line of a football team. Yeah, Anthony's a really terrific stunt coordinator, stunt performer. We're going to be talking all about Anthony a little bit later on as we get into some more fun stuff. And honestly, as I'm looking at all these stories, we might have to do like stunts part 1 and part 2, brother,
Happy
because
to. Sure.
we got a lot of stuff, and I don't want to jip anyone because there's a
Yeah.
lot of really great stunt stories. Um, yeah, because I mean, I've been fortunate to work on a lot of action-packed movies. I remember working on a movie called Almost Mercy. Actually, since we just said hi to Anthony, this is kind of a fun transition. I remember working on a movie called Almost Mercy, and I'm with Nick Principe. We're coordinating this fight between some high school bullies and a geek, basically, during the filming of Almost Mercy. And it's kind of a narrow battlefield, the little hallway between the showers and like an old school high school. And it needed to be wet because it's during the showers. So the footing is very wet. It's kind of a tough condition. And Nick and I had to arrive on the day and kind of just map it all out and then shoot the scene. And it was slippery and it was tough, but we got it done. And it ended up being a really great scene. But I remember being frustrated at one point during the filming of that scene and looking to Nick, looking at the call sheet, seeing like, you know, all the shit that we still had left to shoot, and just trying to figure out like how is this possible? How is any of this ever get done? This was only like my third movie. And Nick just looks at me and he's like, Nick's like 6'7", so he like looks down at me and he's like, man, normally we'd have like a whole day to rehearse this scene and a whole day to shoot it, and we're trying to have to do it all like before lunch. Cut to, here we are, 10 years later, literally, and I'm working with guys like Anthony, and we did have a whole day to, rehearse our fight scenes and our stunt scenes the day before, and get them embedded into the minds of the actors and the stunt performers, so that when we show up on set, we're not like looking around figuring it out. Everybody knows exactly what to do. Anthony and his team made these previs videos, which, if you don't know what that is, that's a pre-visualization tool where they basically shoot the fight scene in the gym, so to speak, while training, and you get to see what it's going to look like before you even shoot it. And I'll tell you what, it's a great tool to have. There were more than one time on set when my DP and I are working through the beats and saying, "Oh, wait, how did we want to do this again?" We're like, "Oh, let's look at the previs." And we're like, "Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's how this is going to work." And we actually ended up even kind of, modeling some of our shots after those shots, because these guys are trained at knowing where we call them like the sell points, like what the cells are, what angle the camera needs to be at, so that that big whooping punch looks like a knockout blow and it doesn't look like some cartoon popcorn punch bullshit. That's what these guys do best, and these guys and girls, there's women on the team too, all just like really talented people. So I had a blast working with Anthony and his team, and it was just really fun. And I remember being in that rehearsal room, which was really just one of the it's like a conference room we rented at the hotel that we were staying at to work these beats out. And I remember during that rehearsal, it was either during the rehearsal or during one of the shoots, just kind of like looking at Nick and seeing the stunt team kind of come together and just do this great work, and being like, wow, look at that. We finally had a little rehearsal time. Finally have a full blown stunt team coming in. Only took us 10 years, but we got there. So it was fun just to kind of see that arc out, and I can't wait for people to see the collective, because I'm in the editing room right now, and it is without a doubt the most action-packed movie I've ever made. The foot never comes off the gas pedal the whole movie, and I'm excited. You're gonna see Anthony. I think he's in the movie. Like, don't tell anyone this. This is a top secret for and action watchers. But I think he's in the movie 3 times, playing 3 different characters. Again, I love the movie magic. The
Coming
fact.
to America with Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
Well, it's like, hey, he's wearing a ski mask in one scene. He's wearing, a suit in one scene. You can shoot him from behind in the other. It's like, yeah,
Right.
work him in the mix.
Tommy, before we wrap up, whenever you want to, if there was 2 lessons I could say that have been reestablished in this conversation, I think the biggest problems that stunts or productions have with their stunts, it's not the stunts' fault. Sometimes people are either rushing for time or they're trying to save money. And yes, those are both huge considerations, but especially when you're talking about stunts, people's safety, their lives, and the overall morale of the team, and if nothing else, the future of the production, as we've seen in some of those high-profile tragedies, all that stuff is at stake. So, if any potential filmmaker out there is hearing what I'm saying, just please put the human health above production time and money.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. I mean, again, fortunately, I am seeing a big change in the business. As I get a little older and a little more and more gray hair show up in my head. I've been doing this a while now. I say to myself, like, there has been a change in this business. Like when I first started doing this, right around probably 2006, 2007, maybe even 2000, whatever it was, 15, 20 years ago almost. There was a little bit more emphasis on, nah, fuck that, just get the shot. Safety first wasn't always kind of the thing.
Right.
And now I really do think, and you hope that this happens in life as a society, as a people, we kind of change and we adapt a little bit. And I think now producers are realizing, and hey, whether it's because they are doing it from their heart or whether they're doing it to protect their ass, because everyone knows that, these things can become really damaging liabilities. I think we've changed, and people are more willing to, hey, you know what? Let's call it for today. We're going to get that tomorrow when we can do it a little more safely. So yeah, I definitely think we've evolved a little bit, and I'm happy to see that as Anthony checks in here. Oh shucks, guys, thanks
All
for the
right.
kind words. I'll Venmo you my end of the deal now. Haha, I'll come to die for you any
Right.
day, Tommy. Lots of love, brother. I appreciate that. And yeah, you know my Venmo information. Um, Kim checks in. Kim, hi. I'm going to watch the replay, but I'm here now. Well, it's always good to have you here with us. And yeah, it was a
Thanks,
good
Kim.
show today. I mean, I could go for another hour on this stuff, but we are going to wrap it up. And I've decided that I'm going to save some of these other stunt stories for Stunts Part Two. Maybe we'll hit that later on in the year because, again, I don't want to jeopardize. We've got so many great stunt stories from the movie Johnny and Clyde, which I'm very excited. Just heard the release date on that one. Anthony worked on that one as well. So it looks like Johnny and Clyde will be coming out in March. So last time I checked, we're knocking on the door of February. So March will be right around the corner. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, we have lots of great stunt stories from Johnny and Clyde that I want to get into. Um, and obviously, I could talk stunts on the collective uh, for quite a bit. Anthony did one of the coolest stunts that I've ever personally seen, and that is the Human Torch stunt, which maybe as a main event for the show. Maybe we'll just close out with that one, and
Go
that'll be
ahead.
kind of like our last stunt story, and then we'll wrap this thing on up.
Sure.
So again, just to show you the evolution of stunts, my first movie I directed, we've got a goddamn pool noodle and we're wrapping a rope around it and yanking me as hard as we can with three people off camera. And then this is my most recent movie, working with Anthony, where we really just tried to add as much production value as we could with, you know, dazzle them with the brilliance of all these great fight scenes. And um, it's an action movie, so people are expecting something. There's certain boxes that you have to check when you're watching an action movie. Otherwise, the person that, planked down their hard earned cash to watch it is going to feel like they missed out on something and they're not going to feel like they get the full value of their buck if you don't have certain things in there. Obviously, we talked about fights, chases, little gunplay, right? These are all things that you'd expect. Well, it came to my attention that Anthony had the ability to do the classic Human Torch stunt, which is, we've all seen it before. There's a couple different versions of this. Sometimes you see just the guy with the burning arm goes by, and then sometimes you see the full on body, the Human Torch. And it's a really just kind of dazzling stunt. I mean, it's a human being that's on fire. It's horrifying and kind of draws your attention. So there's a scene in the film where there's I can't give away too much, but basically an explosion takes place because hey, that kind of shit happens in action movies, right? There's an explosion, and as a result of the explosion, there's a fire of some kind. And I remember Anthony coming to me and basically saying, "Tommy, I could do a torch stunt and be like just a guy running out of the building, kind of a thing, and just kind of run out on fire and drop." And it was like somebody told me that like Santa was coming tomorrow. I was like, "What? You can do that? Like you have these ability? You can make it Christmas tomorrow?"
Right.
I was like, "What? That's so cool." I didn't, and again, like I didn't have that on my bingo card coming into this production. You know, Human Torch stunt was not on there. So when he told me that, I got very excited. And obviously, all of these safety precautions have to be taken. So, once we got the old thumbs up from the brass, from the production team, I was very excited. And it was on our very last day of production. and I got to see it all take place, and I have lots of great behind the scenes video of it all. Watching the process and watching Anthony kind of, fearlessly get in the zone and see him and his whole team of guys, he had 3 guys that were with him really just prepping this stunt. It's a full team effort to get a man ready to burn. So I'll kinda take you through the beats, and Anthony, feel free to jump in if you're still watching and I'm missing anything. Um, but, a lot of it has to do with, and I don't wanna give away any secrets, if they're industry trade secrets, but, I'll just tell the basics. But a lot of it had to do with, Anthony explained, obviously, it's the type of clothing that you're wearing. You wear as much flame retardant, gear as you can. Uh, and then you actually goop up with this flame retardant gel, of some kind, which I'm probably butchering it from a terminology standpoint, but I can only explain it like as goop, or it almost looks like hair gel. Like, the good old fashioned hair gel that you'd
Right.
like unscrew the top and you'd get like a hunk of it. It's basically like, looks like he's putting hunks of hair gel all over his body. The boots come off, the gel goes inside the boot, covers everything. So he's completely basted in this gel now. And he's got basically like a bit of a balaclava. Is that how you say it? Kind of a face wrap of
Right.
sorts, also all gelled up. And then from there, the accelerant must be placed on his body, where, carefully he's, gooped up with whatever catches on fire. Again, I don't know what that chemical compound is, but whatever it is, this shit flames up real fast. Now, the whole process is basically, a couple hours. It's a couple hours of prep just to get him ready and in the zone and ready to do this. His entire team is also wearing, like, when you're watching NASCAR, you see like the racing team and they've got like the jumpsuits, because
Right.
they have to be wearing flame retardant costumes as well. So they're all ready to go. I say costumes. They're not really costumes. They're uniforms. God damn it. So they're all ready to go. These guys stand by. One of them's got a blowtorch, and the other couple guys are standing by with fire extinguishers. Anthony, gets lit up by this blowtorch. I'm trying to remember. I think it was the arm that gets lit first. Uh, but yeah, Anthony checks in. You know the whole procedure, Tommy. I think we
Oh
flame you.
boy,
No,
flambe wants to
no,
flambe
thank
you.
you, brother. I am going to leave that to the professionals like yourself. I do
Right.
not have the guts for that one. So yeah, so basically Anthony goes, I was it arm first? I think the arm is the first thing that gets torched up. And then let me tell you, you better be rolling them cameras, because it happens very fucking fast. But wait, let me back it up. This was the coolest part, and this is why I think Anthony is a little insane in all the fun ways. He tells the camera team and he tells his fire extinguishing squad, the guys that are going to come in. Okay, it was leg first. He lights up leg first. Um, he tells the team, he looks at him, he goes, "Hey guys, I'm going to run around. I'm going to be on fire for a bit. I'm going to drop on the ground. Don't put me out right away. I want to cook for a little while, and then I'll tap out." He taps out to give the signal. So he says, "Don't put me out. I want to cook for a little while."
I want to
Okay.
cook for a little while.
So sure enough, lights him up, leg first, as Anthony corrects us here. Leg first. The leg goes up, leg goes to the body, goes to the arm. Next thing you know it, there's a human match. Like you lit a fucking human sized match. Big old flame ball running right towards camera. And I gotta say, again, I don't know if this is coordination. I don't know if this is just happens when you're on fire. But again, shout out to Anthony for like staying in it. Where like he did this really cool like flame dance while he was up. So it like really just looks like a guy like suffering for and running for his life, like doesn't know what to do. Finally drops. And bro, when he says I'm gonna cook for a second, he wasn't shitting, because
Right.
like I'm like 1, 2, 3. it felt like 5 seconds. It probably wasn't, but it was like a good like few seconds of just him laying down on the ground and again burning. And I don't
Right.
want to give it away because this is top secret movie stuff, but hey, these are the little tidbits that you get when you watch Hand Action. You get to get some spoilers. Because he was willing to cook like that, I was able to in the edit to use that. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna use that shot of him on the ground burning. Like now I got a nice button at the end of a scene that like, most guys probably would have been like, hey, as soon as I hit the ground, you should be extinguishing me. Okay.
Right.
The
Right.
signal for me to get put out is when I hit the ground. So he really hung in there. And it was cool to see. It's a cool visual. Again, maybe I'll share some of these on a few, maybe on Stunts 2 when we get back into this down the road. We'll share some of these videos. But it's kind of oddly therapeutic. It was the last day of the shoot. It was the last shot of the whole movie on fire, and then boom, these extinguishers come in and just billows of this like comforting, cool uh fire extinguisher puff. What do you call that? The extinguisher, what the
Yeah.
foamy stuff. I don't fucking
Right.
know what it's called, but there was a big cloud that just kind of came over Anthony as he's literally like smoking. His fabric of his clothing is like falling off of him. Um, and yeah, he did it, man. There was a lot of high fives, a lot of back patting, a lot of job well done, and it was pretty fucking awesome. So shout out to Anthony for doing that, for having the guts to do it, for knowing. And it's not just guts, guys. Again, doing stunts. Any person can do a stunt, right? It's about doing a stunt and living to tell the tale and doing it safely. So
Right.
shout out for knowing how to do this and cheating death. Let's see. Anthony says, when I reposted your reel, IG cut off the part where the guys extinguished me. So many people message asking if I was okay because the safety team was late. I think
Jeez.
you nailed it. Yeah, you definitely nailed the anxiety danger factor. And I'll have to send you that full video as well. But crazy shit. So it turns out the tack vest actually
Wow.
melted onto me.
He's still
So
wearing it to this day.
yeah, it's like a tattoo now. Well, thank you for doing that, brother. And I've been in the editing room, and let me tell you, you're not going to be disappointed. It looks very great. Um, so yeah, guys, we appreciate you kind of watching along. I've decided to kind of call it quits there for today, so that we keep ourselves fresh, and we've got a whole new topic to dive into later on because I got another probably 7 or 8 stories to talk about that are all worth watching. I don't know if any of them are cooler than a human being burning alive almost. Sorry, guys, that's tough to top, but we will hit this Stunts 2 later on in the year. Again, thank you for watching, guys. We really appreciate it. I can't say it enough. Um, all the shares mean a lot to us. Anytime you can kind of post this up on your social media and tell people that are like-minded fellow filmmaking friends, actors out there, writers out there, anybody who you think might want to watch the show, send them the link. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please click on my YouTube channel and give me a subscribe. Really racing towards 1,000. Stephen E, I saw earlier that you shouted something out here. Congrats on over 800 subscribers. I appreciate
Thanks.
that. I missed this comment here. The Lone Viking box falls great because the boxes fold and envelop you as you fall through them. I prefer over bag jumps myself. Yeah, the boxes were amazing, man. And like, talk about a simple, in terms of like investing in your stunt equipment. It's like, hey, man, they're just cardboard moving boxes. But yeah, very cool how they just kind of, it's like an accordion kind
So
of.
that does work when it works, but
If done properly, yes,
right.
that's the move. Also, guys, I just wanted to shout out, a lot of people reach out to me all the time and they say, oh, I've got this screenplay. I need some help. How do I get involved? Consulting for screenwriting is something that I do a handful of times every month. I'm having a conversation with a few people, and I provide that service for a modest rate. If you'd like to inquire, feel free to reach out to me here. Shoot me a message on my social media, and we can talk about doing a one-on-one Zoom conversation where I get you in the script writing gym and help you beef up your script and give you a read, give you all my thoughts, all my notes. That's something that I'm really trying to spread the word, because a lot of people have been reaching out. And I said, you know what? Why don't I just tell people that this is something I do? It's usually something that I just offer to friends and colleagues within the industry. But And Action's all about helping people make better movies and building their careers. And while we do that, sharing some of the shit that I've done and some of my successes, but mainly my failures. I enjoy talking about my failures more than my successes, because that's what you learn from. You learn more when you fall down. So if you would like to learn some of the things that I've learned about writing screenplays, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about a affordable rate for me to come on and talk to you one on one about your project. I'd love to share some of the knowledge and help you get your script finished.
Well, Tom, I'll just jump in and say that a lot of times people are, especially first time writers, they write a script and they're so proud of their accomplishment of finishing the script, but they don't realize that they might have made some real simple mistakes that can be easily fixed. But it might take them 10 years of reading books and taking screenwriting classes to see those, as opposed to the investment of working with yourself or me or somebody else as a script doctor or script consultant. I mean, I remember, Tommy, there's been people that have given me scripts that they put their own name in bold on the title page. And I'm like, that's a real turnoff for people in the profession. It may not seem like a big thing, but if you're putting your own name as the author in bold on the title page, it's kind of alienating, and it's a tip off to people in the film industry that you really don't know what you're doing. And it sounds harsh, but it's easier to say that to somebody than, would you rather tell somebody that or have them waste their time and effort sending out scripts with their name in bold to different people in the film industry that aren't going to read that script? So, I mean, there's just so many people might look at something like that, like, why do I need to pay for a screenwriting consultant? Well, the reason is you're actually saving yourself money and you're saving yourself time in the long run from being victim to those silly mistakes.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I don't want to sound so callous about how the industry is, but I've been told by producers that, hey, if I see a script and it's not formatted the right way, it goes right in the trash. Because I say to myself, if they don't know how to even format a script right, they're not going to be worth my time.
Right.
And I know it sounds harsh, but it's the reality. So you really got to make sure that not only, obviously, you got to creatively have the right script that people want to check out, but you could have the best idea in the world. If your format's not right, it's enough to turn off a lot of people. So those are some of the things that we can talk about. My writer friends out there that are looking for that little extra push to get your script across the finish line, I'm happy to read. I'm happy to give my advice. I'm happy to do a one-on-one session with you. So you want me to help you coach it up? Drop a comment down and we'll get in touch and we'll talk about some rates and we'll make it happen. So guys, next week I'm pretty excited because we're getting into February already. I can't believe this month is already over, just
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Really, my month of January blew the fuck by. If this is any kind of sign of things to come, man, 2023 is going to be a fast year. So everyone strap on in because it's moving quick. Um, Next week we're getting into Valentine's Day. So we've got some fun romantic comedies that we're going to be talking about in the month of February. But next week we're going to be talking about, you've heard me talk about him before. You've heard Mike say his name a lot. Tommy Dreamer,
Oh yeah.
who is the innovator of violence, a hardcore wrestling legend, former ECW champion. We're very excited to do a full on deep dive about Tommy Dreamer to celebrate his birthday, which I believe is January 13th. We're going to talk about him next week so that by the time the show's out, we'll have a little steam under it. We can kind of give everyone the long form version of the show to tribute Tommy Dreamer on his birthday. That guy's done an awful lot for me over the years. He's always been there for me. You don't have a ton of friends in this business. You really don't. You make a lot of acquaintances, but there aren't a ton of people that you can truly trust and call upon and know that they're going to help you just about no matter what. Tommy Dreamer is one of those guys to me, and I really appreciate that. So I'm excited to talk about Tommy next week. We're coming at you Wednesday today because I had a little shuffling of the deck. You might remember I was talking about maybe going to Los Angeles to edit my film. Well, we're going to now do all the editing through some remote sessions. I'm really thrilled with the edit that this editor put together. He knocked it out of the park, so much so that I'm like, geez, I don't have a lot of notes here, and that's a good thing. So I'm excited about that. So we will be coming at you Tuesday. So don't be fooled by this Wednesday edition of the program. We're going to hit you Tuesday with Tommy Dreamer.
Very good. Well, Tommy, it's been a great episode, and yeah, really enjoyed talking about stunts with you. And as you said, you're available for script consultant work. I'm available for acting coaching through the good old internet or even in person. But
yeah, let
just
me put you over for a second, pal. Actors out there, I don't want to give any names, but a pretty notable actor reached out to Mike just last week for his services on a film that I was working on. And Mike, the night before this gentleman had to do his scene, got on the phone with him and worked the beats over and over and over again. And the next day, I spoke to that actor and went really well. And he felt much more confident and comfortable that Mike spent some time with him. So, actors out there, don't be afraid to give Mikey a call. And if you got something big, you got an audition that you're planning to practice or get it off the ground, give Mikey a shout.
appreciate that, buddy. Thanks.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for this week. We will see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern for episode 34 and action with Tommy Dreamer. Everybody, I hope you have an awesome week. Go out there, get creative, make some movies, tell some stories, and we'll see you next week.